thanks everyone for attending. I have my panel here that was going to talk about also just a few things about getting a college job. But you know, I would like, just for 2 minutes, because then Marlene and Ted Owen, they're going to come up and do the orchestral master class. We'll take about a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back, okay? Because they have a lot to tell us about that. I'm very enthused about hearing that. But Scott Humes of Louisiana, so, what's the name of it? Monroe. Southern Louisiana?
University.
Why don't you come and sing? Yeah. But Scott, I'm very proud of him. He's one of my first students. He went to, where'd you go? Oh, Oberlin. I met him in Oberlin many, many years ago when I was a sabbatical replacement there. And I recruited him to my other school, to Ball State University. He went there, and then he went to Cincinnati. And then he got his doctorate recently from Stony Brook. And he's had some wonderful teachers. He's doing great. You're going to hear him play this afternoon. But he recently got a job in Louisiana, and he's doing really terrific. I mean, he's a phenomenal player and wonderful teacher. And he's going to tell you just a little bit. I asked him, Scott, what are the main things that you want to do? What is so important about securing a job in a university? And he is, like, I would say, one of the most multi-talented students I've ever had, because he can play piano, he plays harp, he plays flute. What else do you play? Piano. Oh, I said that.
I only can play one at a time, though.
He only plays one at a time. He plays clarinet. So, I mean, and so that, I think, has served him really well. Although, I mean, of course, clarinet is his primary, but he had to teach some theory. He had to do some sight singing, and all of these skills he has. Jazz pedagogy, things like that. And so, but the best thing I liked what he said is, and he is a very tenacious young man. He said the biggest thing that he thinks people need to remember is to be able to handle the rejection. And I can tell, and I think that's what everybody has to remember too. I can say I've gotten many rejections. Everybody does in the field, and that's really what makes a player better, right? Is when you get feedback that may not be totally positive. That's when you should thank the person, right? Because that means you're going to get better, and that should be your challenge. How can you get better? I had a student the other day that played Mozart Concerto, and she said it went really well. I didn't win it, but it makes me want to be even better. And that's the right attitude, not the attitude that, you know, forget it, I'm not going to keep trying, right? So anyhow, you go.
Other than the handling rejection is always, you know, that's the most devastating part of your job search. And some schools will give you feedback and some will prefer not to. But it never hurts to ask, because whatever they do give you, you can use to help yourself the next time around. Being a versatile person in this day and age is almost a requirement also, because some few jobs are only teaching clarinet. So your theory and your history, your piano skills, they all come into play. In my experience, I went into the job that I have now in Monroe, and I teach clarinet and saxophone. And I owe it to Dr. Hardick here. When I was at Ball State, they needed someone to teach a tremendous overflow from the saxophone studio, and that's where I got started.
Typical with saxophone. You better learn the saxophone if you play clarinet. Although I can only play the first line of Chameleon on alto sax. That's all I know. So I'm out of the market for that.
So if you keep a lookout at what jobs are being advertised, find what you feel that you would fit into best, and don't, you know, you have to focus on clarinet, because that's, if you're here, that's got to be your first love. But knowing something else to supplement that will help you in your job hunt. Oftentimes in my experience, when a university will advertise a position for clarinet plus either music theory or music technology, they might consider you even if you don't have one of those fortes. Because they can shuffle around within the department and then emphasize their own interests in your position differently from what they advertised. So.
Yes, that's all very accurate information. Very good. And I can't tell you the number of times that he writes me, CH, I need another letter of recommendation. I need another letter of recommendation. And I say, okay, I've got it on here. But I'll tell you, a good, somebody who, make sure you get somebody for your, to write the letters. And this is if you're in undergrad, you're trying to, you know, get into undergrad, graduate school, or get a university position. you want to make sure that they are writing about the specific criterion. So if it's for clarinet and sax, you know, I don't want to write up, say, oh, he can only play clarinet. So make sure your teachers, sometimes they will even let you see the letter, and you can scan it and let them know, and well in advance, and let them know what is it that you, what the position is about. List the criterion, because that's really important. And then we can hone that letter better, so that when the committee sees it, they say, oh, okay, number one, this person does fit the criterion. Okay, that's really important. And I also like what he said. He said, avoid feeling like I have to get the job. Focus on doing good work, because obviously you're already a fine clarinetist and player, and you just are trying to find your way in the professional world. So, you know, just don't expect that your first time out of the gate, you're going to get that big, you know, tenure track position over at Eastman. Okay? Okay, now, Kathy. This is Dr. Kathy Wood. Also, she's a graduate, well, soon-to-be graduate doctor, but she did finish all her requirements in the fall, right? And she secured one of the best positions in the in this year for tenure track, and it's at that university, Appalachia State. Appalachian. Oh, sorry, but they beat U of M. Yeah. She said that day there was like the sirens were going off. She couldn't even get to her practice room. Now you tell us a little, Kathy, because she's new on the scene. This was your second year this year?
This was my second year.
And this is your first year. It's her first tenure track. But she had many other things. I mean, she studied with me for the last 3 years, and she would always say, okay, I'm teaching at Flint. I'm giving a master class in Toronto for new music. I mean, she was very active already. In her, you know, during the time she was here. She wasn't only enmeshed in MSU. She was out already broadening horizons. She did something at Clarinet Fest, ICA in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. So that's really important, to get out there and already just assume you're a professional in the field. Go ahead.
I think the versatility point is really important. I'm also teaching theory and ear training. So having a second teachable is really important. And in addition, of course, to being a good teacher and performer and being well-rounded with research, also your personality and what kind of colleague you are is very important. I know Dr. Hartig, after every phone interview and interview, would always ask me one of the first questions, did they laugh, did you laugh? And I think that's really important to be yourself, because you want to be hired for who you are, not who you're trying to be. And other than that, just some little details, I don't know if we have time.
Sure.
Just in getting an interview, I make sure that I tailor my cover letter to the job. Do your research. What is this school about? What are they interested in? And the order your resumes in, does that match with what they're looking for? I would change that around. I mean, if you're applying for a clarinet and sax position or a clarinet and theory, it's going to be much different, and you're going to emphasize different things. Mm-hmm. And then just the presentation, it's your first impression. Once you get the interview, then you can show them who you are and what you can do. But in order to get that, I think it's really important that you really think about your presentation. I had business cards and letterhead that all matched, and I used the same font for my name and tried to do everything possible. Really nice CD cover, so it looked professional. I think those little details, although they're not the most important thing, are the first step to get your foot in the door.
It's a good foot in the door. Another thing that Kathy did that I think was very beneficial, she said, okay, I could either go do this competition in, I can't remember, France or somewhere like that, and it would cost about $2,000. And I said, why don't you take that money and make yourself a demo CD and go record? And so then she did a very nice CD, a very nice presentation. A lot of folks who called me said, oh, I really liked her playing very, very much. And so then when she went to the interview, they said, oh, she does sound like the CD. And so that's really important. So spend the money to get a nice, really a good demo tape. That's the same for people auditioning for undergrad or grad. Of course, it's best if you do a live audition. But in the university scene, even in the orchestral scene, which our folks are going to talk about later, sometimes you have to send a tape first. Another thing you need to do is sometimes have a DVD. So I have my students, my older students, they'll be allowed to give a master class to my undergrads. And then they have that on hand, because anymore, when you apply, they're always looking also for a DVD to watch your teaching, right? So anyhow, we could just go on and on, but we've got other important stuff to get to. And so thank you very much. And everybody, let's take 5 minutes, and then we're going to have Mr. Ted Owen and Marlene Pauley. We're going to go on to the next segment of the masterclass, okay? So thanks very much, and we'll see you soon again.